Hey, Juan here. If you have been coming to this channel often, you probably know this concept, but I have been hearing this question every now and then about what is product management, especially when I'm looking into some online communities and especially when I'm meeting somebody in real life and I try to explain what I do as a job. Most of the people are completely clueless about what product management is. So in this video, let's go and check it out. So first thing first, let's define what a product is. A product is a vehicle to deliver value to your users. So those are fancy words, but what do they mean in practice? Is what you want to do is that you want to find a problem that those users have and solve that problem in the most efficient way as you can. So now that I have defined what a product is, let's talk about what product management is. So what product management is an organization or a function within the company that wants to create the most successful products possible for the customers. They do this by delivering value to the customer, and this is done by solving that problem or need from the users. And of course, you also want to have the biggest impact on your business. This typically is going to mean that you create a profitable business or that you are creating a growing business that at some point should be profitable. Startup PMs, we wink. So once we had talked about what product management is, how do you actually do product management? First things first, you really have to deeply understand your customers. And it's not just understanding your customers. You have to understand what type of users do you have and what are their problems that they have. This is the most important thing for you to understand. What are their problems? What are their needs? Understand them really well, even before you even start thinking about how to solve them. Once you have a very deep understanding of those problems, then it's going to be much easier to find those solutions to address them. And those solutions will create your product. So now that we know our users, we know their problem, and know how we are going to solve it, then it comes the most typically known part of product management. Here you will work defining strategies. What are the most important things that are going to get you closer to that vision, to that solution for that problem that you have defined? Then you will have to plan, you will have to design, you will have to prioritize and execute those plans that you have defined. You will also have to set goals or KPIs so that they give you a very clear focus, and these are typically going to be, or should be definitely, part of the strategy that you have defined for the product. This way, your focus will be quite narrow, which means that you are going to be able to advance faster on the development of your goals. And typically, you are going to define these goals by setting KPIs for your product. This can be different things. One of them, typical one, is going to be growing the number of users or active users that you have in your product. But all these things don't mean that you had to work alone. You actually had to work with a lot of people. This can be the stakeholders, internal ones, external ones. It can be your engineering team. It can be your sales team. It can be your marketing team, but it also is going to be very important, your users. You have to work together with your users as much as you can. Try to talk with them, understand better their problems. Also, create mock-ups of the solutions that you are going to create. Review them with them, validate them, get their feedback, and see if they are aligned with their expectations, or you have to review, go to the drawing board, and start again. Next, you are going to launch your product. You probably are going to launch your product many times, and you should do so. And you also should launch your product even when it's not ready to actually solve the problem, just so you can validate the solution with those potential customers. This can be done via prototypes, MVPs, mock-ups, and so on. But even once you have launched your product, once you have a successful solution that is adopted and used by your users, maybe one of the things that people are not paying so much attention in product management is analyzing the results of that product. And this means analyzing the metrics and the behavior of the users when they engage with that product. So here you can do many things like defining the metrics that you're going to track in your product to understand the user's behavior, as well as you can also have interviews directly with your users, have polls, and other different ways of gathering feedback from your users. Talking about metrics and analytics, do you know that YouTube actually has a lot of analytics and is tracking a lot of the behavior of the users, you as a viewer here? So if you think that this video is bringing you value, I'm pretty sure that YouTube is trying to understand your behavior as a user. So go click the like button, and then you will send a signal to YouTube that you are enjoying it. YouTube will actually go and promote this video to other people that have similar mindset. And by the way, what are the key metrics and key KPIs that you typically track in your product? Let me know in the comments below. Once you have defined your plans, once you have been working in execution, you have worked a lot with your customers, you have released a ton of prototypes and MVPs, working together with your users, and even go to the a more official proper launch of your product once you get out of your beta process or whatever you want to call it. And also you have been analyzing the data, you have been analyzing the behavior of your users. Then comes the most interesting part also of product management in a way, is that you had to learn and to adapt, because your product is, as I say in the beginning, is a vehicle to deliver value. You had to always be evolving, because the same as you are creating a product that is solving the user's problem, there might be more problems that the users have that you're not covering yet. There might be other products that are solving similar problems to the one that your product is solving. So you had to always be evolving and adapting to all those ever constantly changing needs of the users. So if you're a product manager, or if you want to be a product manager, probably the biggest difference is when working as a product management is the industry that you are working in. Are you working in a B2B or in a B2C environment? The focus is quite different when you're working with businesses. Typically, the relationship, sometimes it can be more official, and then many times the users are not going to be the people that actually makes the purchase decision. The purchase decision might be done by somebody that has no clue what your product is doing in practice. When you're talking about consumers, B2C, then you are going to sell directly to that person that is going to be using your product. Here, many times, the focus is going to be quite different, and the engagement and how you had to create that traction for your product is going to be completely different from what you had to do in a B2B environment. But the reality is that the world is changing, luckily for B2B, and actually many of the behaviors, many of the ways of working, behaviors of the products that have been implemented in B2C are nowadays translating also into B2B products. The other big difference for working as a product manager is that are you going to work, or are you working in a startup? Are you working in an established company or established product? Or are you working in a product that is sunsetting? If you're working in a startup product, probably what you want to do is grow. Maybe you don't even have many customers, and maybe you're just working with one customer, understanding them really well. But at some point you have to understand how to scale up the business. Once you are able to scale up the business, usually you are more in the established product that has at least reasonable size market, and its position has been working for some time. So how can you adapt that product to take it to the next level? How can you make it grow? How can you make it scale it more? How can you potentially address problems that are relatively similar to the ones that you are addressing at this point, but maybe you are not able to address them? How can you adapt your product to do those things? Sometimes here the focus might be more on optimizations than radically changing the product. And that is going to depend a lot on the company culture. And finally, if you are working in a sunsetting product, then you had to probably focus just purely on optimizing and only on the profit side of the product. You probably don't want to do any radical changes. You want to do minor tweaks, and you want to potentially maybe look into what could be the next offering, the next new product that will solve that problem, but in a completely and radically different way. That, in my opinion, is the way to go forward when you are sunsetting a product. In product management, rarely there's going to be just one person handling the whole product, because products are generally quite big. There's going to be teams of product managers that are going to be doing this job. As a summary, you can say that product management is a part of the organization that it takes responsibility and ownership of the life cycle of a product, from conception all the way to sunset of that product. Product management requires many skills, requires many different ways of working, and requires many different frameworks potentially even to actually be able to do your job. If you want to learn more about the skills that you need to have to be a product manager, go check out this video. I will see you in the next one, and remember, stay safe.